The city gearing up tonight. Ashley Carter is in our newsroom. Ashley, what's the city's battle plan?
Well, they say they are ready, but we've all seen the winter damage Mother Nature can do, especially after the 2013 ice storm. And now the city of Toronto is prepping and says again they are ready for what's about to hit us tonight. But Toronto Hydro is warning residents to brace for the worst.
Sometimes life throws us something unexpectedly, and that little thing or big thing can change your entire life. And then you have to figure out how you're going to deal with it and whether you can continue to move on, because it made such a huge impact into your life. And on March 23rd, 2016, that something happened to me and it changed my entire life. So what happened was, on that day, it was about a month prior to spring, and I was so excited for the next season to come. To take my family out, to enjoy the weather. But on that specific day, no one expected the storm to come. So what happened was, I woke up in the morning and I looked out the window because I heard that it was coming. And I was like, wow, I can't believe it looks like winter outside, even though, most of the ice and snow was sort of melted already, but, it all came back. And I was like, I'm not going out there, There's no way I'm going to drive out there or even step outside, because I was looking at the pavement and the roads, and it was like completely covered in ice. So the doorbell rang, and I went to go see who it was, and it was my wife's cousin. And sometimes she would come over and, come visit the kids or just chill for the day. But I was like, why this day? Especially because, I wasn't actually expecting myself to actually go out that day. So, but I was just like, wow, she actually came out during this time of day with this weather. But, that was cool. And at that time, my youngest son was 5 years old at the time, and my eldest daughter was 13. So she stayed over for about a few hours or so, and then she was like, oh, Roger, can you drive me home? And I was like, oh man, I have to step out. And at that time I didn't have, an actual babysitter, but I was like, okay, well, my daughter's 13, so she can actually stay home and, look after the kids. But then my eldest daughter was like, oh, Daddy, can you drive me to the mall with my friend? And I was like, wow, that kind of complicates things, because now who's going to look after, my youngest daughter was 11 at the time, and my eldest son was 7 at the time. So I had to find someone to, look after my kids. And the first person that popped in my head was my niece, who lived across one block away from her house. And so I called her up, and she's like, yeah, I can do it. I can come. I was like, okay, that's cool. So then I waited for her to come over, my niece, and then I drove my wife's cousin and my daughter and her friend, dropped them off, and then I came home. And then my niece was just like, she's just stayed for the rest of the day. So we decided that we were going to watch the Mark Wahlberg's movie, Daddy's Home, which is kind of weird when I look back at it now. It's kind of like, it kind of relates to me, more like Daddy leaving home, but we'll get into that later on in my other chapters. So nighttime came, we watched the movie, and at the end of the movie, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get some fresh air. So I put on my winter jacket, but I slipped on my Vans shoes, which has like no tread on it at all, right? So because I honestly thought I was just gonna basically just get some fresh air and then walk back in. But then as I turned around and I looked, and I looked through this glass window here, and I saw my niece. At the table. And then, so I opened the door and I was like, hey, do you want to get a ride home? And she's like, yeah, sure, because it just looked like she had her jacket on and everything, and I was like, okay, let's go. So she came out, and as she came out, I started running towards the car. Not really running, but I basically like just went really fast. And the last thing I saw was white. Like, I just remember blank white. And during that time, I was like, it felt like I was like in some peaceful dream space. And I remember this woman talking to me in my dream, which I thought was a dream. And she said, Roger, you fell. You fell, but you're gonna be okay. And then as she was talking to me, I started to hear my wife's voice, and said, Roger, are you okay? Are you okay? And then all of a sudden that white turned into, my reality. And as I got up, my head was basically to the side. And as I lifted my head off the concrete, I could feel like this swirl on this side of my head and this side of my head. And it felt like a drain, like water going down a drain. And then I got up and I was like, what happened? And then my wife was like, you fell and I think you were out for like 2 minutes. And I was like, wow. So I got up and then confused at first because I was just wondering if I was gonna be okay getting up because I knew that I had fallen. So we went inside and my wife was like, do you want me to take you to the hospital? And I paused for a second. I was like, oh, maybe I should just wait a bit and see if I have any symptoms. Like when you have a concussion, you want to see if you're gonna get any sort of dizziness or you're gonna vomit or if there's any blood coming out anywhere. So I was pacing around and I couldn't feel much pain at the time. I felt a little bit on the back of my head, and that's when I asked, so how did I fall when I slipped? And my niece was like, you hit your head on the edge of the concrete step. I was like, dang, man. And it made me think for a while because that's a pretty hard fall. So I started pacing around and I didn't feel any dizziness. I didn't want to vomit, but I did feel a little lightheaded. And I made the decision that maybe I should wait like a few days, or maybe just wait until I wake up tomorrow in the morning and see what happens, if I had any more other symptoms. And so the next morning came, I woke up and I started to feel a little bit of pain in the back of my head. There wasn't any dizziness. I didn't feel like I had to vomit. There was no blood coming out anywhere, fortunately. And so I was like, okay, I think I'm cool. I'm cool. And everything was going pretty well for the next 5 to 6 days. And prior to my fall, I was working out every single day, trying to get fit for the spring. And I had to pause for that 7 days. And then for some reason, after that 7th day, I was like, you know what? I think I'm good. I can start working out again. So I went upstairs. I did my normal, regular workout. And I went downstairs to get some fresh air again. And as I was outside, like all of a sudden I felt this like tingling sensation on the side of my head, starting from like here, and it went down to like about here. This whole section here felt numb. It's like that feeling when you're sitting down for a really long time and your leg falls asleep. So that's how the side of my head felt like. It would just like, and I was like, okay, maybe this is temporary, I shouldn't be worried, right? Because maybe this is just something that happens after you have a fall like that and it'll go away the next day. So I was a little bit concerned, but I was, hoping that it would go away fast because it was such an annoying feeling. And, I was just hoping that it was temporary. So the first day passed and I woke up and I was like, no, it's still there. What am I going to do? I'm going to give myself a little bit more time and wait a little bit more and see if it goes away. And I kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and it was around 10 days after or so. and it was still there. And that's when I started to get a little bit more concerned, because I was like, you know, I don't know, is this gonna be here forever? I mean, like, because I don't think I can manage if my head is gonna be, it's gonna feel like it's asleep all the time, you know, that numbness feeling. But my anxiety and depression didn't start at that moment, but you know, I could start feeling that anxiousness, you know, because I wasn't sure whether it was going to heal or not. And my daughter's birthday was coming up, and you know, and we had set up this huge party for her, and I started to be like, man, how am I going to get through the day, you know? So the next chapter, I'm going to talk about how I had to deal with the sensations and how I had to try to hide it away from my family, not including my wife and my niece, because they were there. So if you like the video, please like the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, and don't forget to turn the notifications on, and I will see you next video. Remember, your mind matters.